Right, Shalom, giving all praise unto Yabashim Ashab Bashim Korash. Double honors unto the apostles, a great millstone, and honors your brothers to be pushing this truth in sincerity throughout the four corners of the earth. And above everybody are coming out here to give you this truth for the grace and mercy of Yahweh Bashim Ashab Bashim Korash. Giving all praise unto Yabashim Ashab Bashim Korash. It's going to be a relatively quick video based upon my personal experiences and a little bit of a testimonial with respect to some of the experiences that I've seen, you know, in my walk, you know, dealing and being around Esau and listening to some of the conversations that they be having around me, not necessarily directly to me, but generally just in my proximity. Now, I've got the book of Job, the 30th chapter here. The part of the precept that we're interested in is the 8th verse. Okay, they were children of fools. Okay, yea, they were base men. They were viler than the earth. Right? Now, you come into this truth, especially if you're coming from a so-called Christian background. You might have had some Edomite-looking Jakes up in there. You might have had Esau up in the church and everything. And they teach you the plantation Christianity of love everybody, right? So when you first come into this truth, if you wasn't already leaning towards one side, you know, you might go through a process of trying to understand what's this vileness that the forefathers were speaking about, the vileness that the apostles and the different brothers, including myself, have been speaking about for the longest time concerning these Edomites. And that might be because you've grown around Jake, but maybe you interact only with Esau at the church place, or you know, you come into these small interactions, micro interactions with Esau, and you don't really know what their mind is all about. You don't really know what these guys, okay, their philosophical persuasion is all about as concerning vileness and etiquette. These guys out here, they're vile. Esau's vile. Their conversation is filthy. Okay, their conversation is filthy, and it's inundated with the ubiquity. If you don't understand what I'm saying, it's inundated with an alternative lifestyle. You know, a man, okay, defiling himself with another man behavior. Littered with that, man. These men are vile, bro. Okay, these men are vile. So when you're coming from a perspective of I've been around Jake all my life, and you know, Jake was the predominant people that I was around, you might not really understand what's being said, man. You might not really come to experience what this is all about, especially when you're coming from like inner city London or something like that. You ain't really around Esau like that, right? You ain't really around Esau in large enough numbers where you're the minority, because obviously you're living in the city, and that's where Jake was going to be according to the scriptures, and that's what we see in practice. That's where Jake was going to be. Jake was going to be in the inner cities, and you're going to be around your own. And even if you're not around your own, there's going to be Jake from other foreign lands that's going to be there, whether they be Chinese looking or Edomite looking. It's going to be around Jake. But when you start to see these Edomites congregating numbers, and like my man, what's this guy say, man? Joe, was it Joe? Not Joe, man. Bill Burr said, whenever you hear that sound, man, that yeehaw, you know some vile BS is about to take place. Okay, you know something vile's getting ready to take place, whether it be a lynching, whether they're about to get freaky with one another. This is what these dudes be on, man. Okay, this is what these dudes be on. Now, coming from Afro-Caribbean culture, as they call it out here within the UK and maybe other places out there within the world, you know, there's certain behaviors that was just not tolerated, especially around about the early 2000s and the 1990s. There's certain behaviors that was just not tolerated. It wasn't acceptable for you to come out there with the batty, you know, the batty man thing. You couldn't make jokes about that. We used to rap songs bunning out the so-called ubiquitous community. And then obviously Esau infiltrated that industry, and you know, certain artists that stood by that standard, they got rid of. I mean, Buju Banton was Buju Banton? I forget which one it was. Yeah, I think he did a famous interview where he was calling out the ubiquity community, and then he ultimately got his record cancelled or whatever, right? He got his record deal cancelled, and you know, you don't really hear too much about him these times. But he did that interview, and then, you know, it resurfaced or whatever. But that was a heavy thing amongst the culture, especially out there within the Caribbeans, of pushing that anti-ubiquity philosophy out there. Now, when you get around Esau now, really, you can't really they haven't grown up around that. And obviously they haven't, because they're vile. Okay, their children were like our forefather Job says, man. He wouldn't even leave them with the dogs, man. He wouldn't even leave them around the dogs. You know, the pit bull, the Rottweiler. Who knows what Job had, man? You know, when you got money and resource as an Israelite, you ain't just gonna get the Chihuahua, you know. You ain't just gonna get a Chihuahua. You're gonna get the most ostentatious dog you can get in your flock. I remember this dude, was it Tariq Nasheed? He's kind of like got money or whatever. He had a I think he was breeding dogs at one point. He had them big dogs. He's kind of moist, that guy, anyway. He's a bit suspicious, that guy. I think he was cursing out the Israelites at one point. So I'm not really trying to push that, but the point I'm trying to make here is this. When you read about the forefathers and the disdain that they had against Esau, you really begin to understand what he was talking about when you're around Esau, when you start to see how Esau speaks, especially when you got them in large numbers. Man, these guys are flamers. Okay, these guys are flamers, man. Anything goes, whether it be in jest, okay, or not in jest, man. Anything goes with these alternative lifestyles, man. So it's no surprise when you see these leaders of the so-called free world. Okay, the leaders of the so-called free world, now they're on the list. That's not surprising, man. Because on a small scale, you can really see how these guys are weird, bro. They're weird. Like, this guy is the one that rules the earth. Okay, that's how bad the Most High got us. The Most High got the most vilest of the men that's on the earth. He got them to rule over the earth. Now you can look at that from a couple of different perspectives. You can look at it from the perspective of, wow, that's the power of the Most High. Okay, and also you can look at it from the perspective of like, damn, is that how far we've fallen? You can look at it from a couple of perspectives, man. You can look at it from a couple of perspectives, but the reality of the situation is that a vile creature is in rulership over the earth. And when you look at this guy move, you're like, ugh, this is nasty. This is nasty, man. Okay, Esau's nasty, man. Esau's freaky. He's weird. He's nasty. Okay? You don't want to be around Esau, man. You don't want to be around Esau in large numbers. When you're the, obviously if it's like a bunch of Jake and there's one Edomite in the classroom, bro, he's going to get with the program. You playing basketball, man. Esau can't do that madness. You're going to get kicked off the court. Okay? But when you're around Esau and these corporate lifestyle, man, you got to be careful. You know, sometimes you got to go to the so-called Christmas party for the work due. Sometimes you got to go there and just be like, you know what? I can see the business benefits of just showing my face for like 2 hours and that, but let me go home, man. You know, when they got the corporate dues and you're like, ugh, I ain't with the Christmas thing, but goodness gracious, man, you know, they're gonna be talking about me not coming for months on end. You gotta make that judgment for yourself. Okay, you gotta make that judgment for yourself. Just go there, you don't smile, you shake a few hands, you say, you know what, I gotta go look after my auntie's dog's cat. But yeah, man, when you see these Edomites, man, okay, don't be going around these guys drunk. Okay, don't be putting yourself in compromising positions, right, psychologically and philosophically around these Edomites, man. There's only so much you can do in this kingdom, but goodness gracious, don't be, man. When you're at the so-called, don't go to the so-called work party and get drunk up around Esau. They're gonna do something weird. Even Dave Chappelle said that. And you know the skit I'm talking about. Even he said that. Now, you know, he's kind of weird, man. He's juiced in. So he's certainly seen some things that are weird and strange. And maybe even participated in weird and strange things. He's even admitted as such. Didn't he say he was with a alternative lifestyler? But that's the society that we live in, man. These are the guys that rule over us. These are the guys that sign our checks. These are the guys that you gotta go to for food. So the food is defiled. If he's defiled, the food's gonna be defiled, man. If he's doing that weird thing, man, we can only imagine what's in the food. Okay, if he's saying all of these crazy, weird things, we can only imagine what crazy and weird things he's doing to the food. But we're through, man. We need Yahawashi. We need Yahawashi to return. We need Yahawashi's kingdom to be established, man. This freaky, weird world, we don't need it, man. We don't want to be here. This is weird, bro. This is weird, man. Okay? This is weird, man. We need something better than this. And thank the Most High, Yahawashi wasn't a degenerate Negro like you see some of these guys out here talking of their madness, man. Brak de Yahawashi didn't do it for himself. You understand what I'm trying to say? Okay, Brak de Yahawashi, right? Yahawashi came and we're gonna be delivered out of here, man. Because this is madness. This is utter madness. That this weird, freaky dude, like just the most vilest of conversations, just the most vilest opinions, the most vilest ways of going around a psychological, social situation. Just weird, bro. Like, how would you come to that conclusion? That's acceptable to say and do. You know the stuff I'm talking about, man. We've been around Esau. Maybe you played rugby or something. Okay, maybe you're in the corporate world. All right, the so-called corporate world that's about to be ruined with the AI, destroyed with the AI. Okay, maybe you've been around Esau, whatever capacity you've been around Esau. You know these guys is weird, man. These guys come up with some crazy things. And what do you think they're gonna do when Jake's not around, man? They're gonna be doing that stuff, man. They're gonna be blowing off each other. I'm sorry to say that, man, but yeah, this is what Esau does. Okay, groping each other. They're gonna be doing all kind of stuff like that, man. It's a weird. These guys are weird. These guys are weird, and that's supposed to be funny. That's supposed to be a joke or whatever. That's supposed to be funny. To hell with this kingdom, man. We need a king. We need Yahushua. We need Yahushua's throne to be established. With that, I'm gonna say all praise unto Yahweh, the bonus of the apostles, a great millstone. All your brothers to be pushing these truth in sincerity. I'll see you on the next one. Shalom.